Ladies and gentlemen, do you have a classic or older car, but still love rock and roll? Sometimes you just gotta listen to Tom Petty. So I think this doohickey right here is the most effective way to get some Tom Petty in this vehicle without butchering anything. Let's take a look. Factory radio delete. So I could be a butcher and hack this to little pieces and install a radio. That one got butchered into the big blazer. I could buy a new surround ready for a radio, then I could buy a radio, then I could buy a speaker for that radio and jam it under the dash, which they're right under there, which is not an easy place to get to. Wire all that in. Maybe if I want to listen to rock and roll, I can Bluetooth it to my phone, but I still got to mount my phone if I want to figure out the GPS to get wherever the hell I think I'm going. It's a lot of parts and pieces, which adds up to a lot of scratch and a lot of time that I don't want to spend installing a radio. This device from One Car Stereo is essentially the same kind of touchscreen CarPlay thing that I have in the van, but this has a built-in speaker. In the van, I bought this thing and drove across country with no radio, just my thoughts. Think about that. Upon returning, I built this little box to hold this radio because I did not want to butcher the dash, but to make that work, I had to build little boxes to hold the speakers, so I got one behind each seat. I bought one of these doohickeys off the internet. Gonna be a little hypocritical here. I think touchscreens in cars should be illegal. They're just absolutely dangerous, and you should be able to like just reach down and find your wipers and your headlights and your thingies without taking your eyes off the road to adjust all that stuff. We all still use our phones for GPS, so these are a huge advantage. You can see the dog in the rear view camera there. That's pretty good. This allows you to do CarPlay or Android whatever by just plugging it in to a cigarette lighter, and this thing will broadcast over your FM radio. And the larger screen makes it easier to follow your map. Rather than having to get one of these doohickeys to connect to an existing car stereo or having to install a car stereo in this truck to listen to a little bit of rock and roll, seems like a fella can just take this thing and plug it directly into the cigarette lighter, get down the road, jamming out. I ordered it in white because the truck is white. It comes with instructions, but I think it's going to be pretty self-explanatory. Look at that little guy. Backup camera wiring thing with many feet of backup camera cable. And there you go. Cigarette lighter cord. That's it. I'm not even going to look at the instructions. And it comes with an 1/8 inch to 1/8 inch in case you are going into an existing car stereo. That's the setup we have in the van, actually. It's an elegant little device. It'll make rock and roll sounds, I think. Let's find out. All right. Holy curveball, Batman. the cigarette lighter's been deleted. No. Inconceivable. That's fine. We can solve that. I found one in this truck, actually. Yeah, I was trying to avoid wiring in a radio, and I still am, but wiring in a cigarette lighter is still something I want to do for charging reasons and purposes. So even on these old school fuse panels, so you have an accessory side and an ignition side depending on how you want to wire your contraption here. The accessory side will be on when the car is on or the accessory side is on, and the ignition side will only be on when the key is in the on position. So I got everything run temporarily. It took me like 5 minutes with nothing more than a cheap Harbor Freight crimp connector kit and some e-tape. All right, now this thing does have an adhesive pad, but we're not going to use that because we may move this between vehicles. You plug it in the one that fits the thing. This does have a memory card slot, so it will record that camera if you want it to, which is kind of interesting. Like if you want a dash cam, then the little camera that comes with it, you can mount it anywhere you like. You could mount it front facing, rear facing, and it will record. All right, let's plug this into our thing, see if we wired this correctly. So now we plug it in and try it out. Although I was looking at the back of this thing, and my one gripe with it was there was nowhere to plug a phone extension in, so you couldn't charge your phone and use this at the same time, which is just a feature that's on the other two units I have, the one in the van and the one in the other Blazer. But then I looked right there, it's a jumper. Now we installed this cigarette lighter connection in under 10 minutes. So if I needed to add another one, I absolutely could to charge my phone. I'm just saying. So here's the equivalent of what you would do if you already had a cigarette lighter in your car. You go like this, you jam it in, and then you turn it on. I don't know, oh look, fires up automatically. Look, there it is. Well, that's okay. Gives me instructions right there on the screen. I will say right off the bat, this one's way more responsive than the one in the van. The one in the van works just fine, but like the touchscreen is actually a lot quicker. We're in business. We're styling. It's already playing social distortion. Shh. Copyrights. Quiet. That honking sound, I know right off the bat that's social distortion's Live at the Roxy introduction. So we're gonna turn it up to 11 and see how it does. Also, we'll recommend this to everybody. You can go right into your settings and put driving focus mode on. It'll just silence all the stuff that you don't need to be distracted by or messing with while you're on the road. It's not the loudest thing ever, but it's not terrible. I'm having to speak up to talk over it. Let's do it with the engine on. There we are with the engine on. I mean, all right, is it as good as your competition car stereo and your lowrider? No. But if you've got a cigarette lighter, all you gotta do is plug it in. And you're in business. You don't need to wire speakers, you don't need to wire a radio, you don't need to do anything. And in this situation, I've got a classic car with a radio delete. I didn't have any of that to begin with. The Jeep Wrangler we have, the radio is dead, the speakers are blown out from the weather. In the Blazer, I put in a radio, but I bought new speakers 6 months ago because the old Marine speakers, after a few years, gave it up due to water. And guess what I haven't done? Wired in the new speakers, because it's a pain in the butt. But this, all I have to do is unplug it, and I can take it with me and throw it in the Blazer. And then I can unplug it and throw it in the Jeep, or I can buy several of them. Anywhere that you have a cigarette lighter, you can take this with you. So if you have a contraption like that, and you're traveling around, that can be your one music source. The one thing I was gonna gripe about, they had already thought of, which was, if you only have a single cigarette lighter, and you need to charge your device at the same time, how do you do it? Well, they built that in. So this thing is only 180 bucks, which isn't cheap, but if you compare that to buying a radio, speakers, wiring it all in yourself, that's also assuming that you're buying a basic head unit that doesn't have a display for your GPS and stuff like that. Value, time, I can move it from car to car. It's brilliant. I love everything. I love it. It's exactly what I need. In fact, I'm looking into this company a bit further because, as I showed the Jeep and the big Blazer, they also sell things like this for motorcycles that are totally waterproof and dustproof. I don't know if they have one with a speaker or not, but we never put the tops on the Jeep or the Blazer, so it might be, you know, a super convenient way when I forget and, you know, leave it in a Blazer in a rainstorm. I mean, I hope you guys are like me. I'm sure you have the skill set to install a radio, but something like this is saving me time and money, and I don't really enjoy installing car stereos, so I would much rather be doing most of my other projects. Speaking of projects, good luck on your projects out there, and we will see you next time on Between the Sharks.